How about now? Hear me talking now? And now? Okay, so this is sound. Okay. Oh, and I have audio too. All the fancy stuff.
Do you want me to turn it up?
Yeah.
There's your name tag. That's not my name.
No?
Oh, damn. Sorry, my bad. I wrote it in Y.
It's alright. You don't need a name tag, Jared. You're not even able to see that high.
What's that?
You're not even able to see that high.
On his foot. Oh, my foot. Sorry, I'm gonna put it. Yeah.
My slipper.
On his pants.
And cover my the paint spot.
Yeah, probably.
Boom. Okay, guys. We're just delayed a few minutes. We're just testing something out. So, hi. Where am I? There I am. Jeremy's in the background. So we're just gonna quickly play with the Roomba that we were just setting up here. I don't know if you saw what we were doing, but I'll start it again so we can get a better idea, a better sense of what we're configuring. And we'll talk a little bit about Exosphere, and everyone's kind of excited, so I hope you guys are too. So let's start off with my desktop here. And nope. There we go. And then what we're going to do here is we're just going to add a few things to my desktop so I can actually see you guys type and ask questions as I go. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, cool. So we're going to do this quick little demo at the beginning here with a Roomba. This is a cable that we made to connect to the Roomba. It just has a serial port on it. And we'll add a camera. And give it some power. And I put a little cup holder on this thing. So that's kind of fun. And then what we'll do here is load ARC. And I'm going to add a camera to my control, to my project. And then I'm going to add a movement panel for the Roomba. And we'll connect to the Wi-Fi for the EZB that's connected to this Roomba. Connect the camera here. And there. Okay, now we're going to add the machine learning Exosphere control to this. So this project, just as it is right now, I can move the robot and drive it around. So it has a maximum speed and a minimum speed, right? That's set up here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to use Exosphere to give it tasks. And what I can do here is I'm going to go in Exosphere, and we're going to configure this, and we're going to give it a title. So I'm going to say my title is my iRobot Roomba with a cup holder. And the description is, this is a modified Roomba with a cup holder and an EZB V4. And then we could do here is we can specify also the maximum drive speed that this thing's going to be able to work at. So we're going to say something like maybe around 50, I think is pretty good for this robot because it's pretty quick normally. So that'll be the maximum speed it can drive at. And we can set up a bunch of other things too because you have different settings here for enabling like audio and video and different things. We'll turn off the audio broadcast here in a password, etc. And then I can put my robot down. And we'll see here the robot, which I'll give it a cup. And now I'm going to ask the robot, I'm going to say, please bring this drink to Jeremy. And I'm going to push submit task. Okay, so now what's just happened is this request has gone into Exosphere, and there's two ways this request can get picked up. You can see here it's been picked up by Amin, and he's now going to be able to drive the robot and perform that specific task. So you can see off he goes. And he's got to bring this drink to Jeremy. So you can see what Amin would be seeing here on the desktop. And there we go. So we're playing a little bit of a COVID game right now. We're keeping some distance. And there we go. So now you can see that Jeremy's got his drink. And when I go back to my desktop here, you can see it's asked me how well this task was completed. So was it done satisfactory? I think so. And I can answer that question. Timely manner? Yeah, I think he went as fast as he could based on the speed I did. And then, of course, the confidence and the accuracy of my description. So these answers that I've just provided of actually training an AI and a machine learning database, which is allowing these type of tasks to be executed again and again and again and start getting better at them. So now we can start talking a little bit about Exosphere, since you've seen a demo of it actually working and how easy it is to set up to any robot at all. All you have to do is add this particular control to your project. It doesn't matter what kind of robot you have, and you can join Exosphere. So let's talk a little bit about the problem that Exosphere is solving, and then we'll take some of your questions, because I think that one of the questions that people are going to ask is, how does this get used and what can we do with it? So I have a camera that needs to be hot glued. It broke off. So Jeremy's going to keep a 6-foot distance. We should attach a glue gun to the camera.
I'll just take it for now.
Okay. And then we can stay back, Jer, 6-foot distance. So while Jeremy tapes the camera, I'll just talk a little bit about what Exosphere is and what inspired me to create it and why and how it's going to help you guys, because I think it's going to be super, super important for what we're trying to do as a community to solve problems with robots. The first challenge, of course, being that AI and ML is the one technology that we're not seeing being used in robotics, right? We're seeing it being used everywhere else. It's being used in finance, it's being used in medical. And that's the reason for that is there's a ton of data in those industries already. Those industries are quite mature, and they've been around for a very long time. And because of that, those industries can produce tons of data that feed into machine learning databases, which AI can start mining and understanding what they can do with that data and how it can help relieve human cognitive load by taking on some of the responsibilities of making decisions. So what we're trying to do with robotics is the same thing, but we just don't have any data. There's no robots doing stuff that can produce enough data for navigation, for making decisions, and also the moral conversations too, right? Like about, you always hear talking about Tesla and everything is, what if a robot or a self-driving car had to make a decision between hitting one person or hitting an old person versus a young person? These conversations are need to be had. So we're not saying that Exosphere is going to make those decisions, but what we can do to start and to kick off AI and ML in robotics is to start producing data. And to do that, we have a very powerful computer that we keep dismissing in robotics. And this is something that it's funny because we're trying to solve a problem, but our most powerful computer we have is our brain, right? Being a human. And we have this power that we just keep dismissing, and we keep trying to offload it onto robotics. And we have to cross a chasm before we can get into ML and AI. So the way I see it, when we look at how technology is progressing, right now, like we're way over here. In this space here, we have software, and then we have some hardware, and we have a ton of ideas. But way over here is AI. Way over here is autonomous robots, right? This is autonomous robots doing amazing things. And there's a big chasm here for us to be able to get to this stage. And you see that all these robot companies are talking and trying to achieve this, and they're testing AI in the lab. So even though there's a little bit of work being done in this space, it's very isolated. And what's missing is real world scenarios, real world data, real world ideas of what robots should be doing. And really, that is where this in here, right? I picked blue so that we can fill it full of water. And what we got to do is we have to fill this in with data, right? We have to fill it in with ideas. We have to fill it in with examples. We have to fill this in with all of the use cases, with all of the, non-simulated, like real world stuff. And once we fill all this in, you see how messy it gets, we can start walking across it and getting ourselves over to the world of AI. And to do that, we need to fill in how ideas actually become tasks and then actually get completed, which starts to train and move us towards AI. And to do that, we're using humans to assist AI. And one of the most important things that I think that people are starting to realize when you start talking about Exosphere is that AI is supposed to replace jobs. But what if people can control those robots all around the world and keep their jobs? Maybe one person can control 10 robots in 10 different Walmarts, right? Maybe one person can control 10 warehousing robots across a vast warehouse, right? So it allows us in the short term or maybe long term, while we move towards AI being autonomous, to allow robots to be controlled. Now, that doesn't mean it can be controlled by you. It means that there's people out there that want to control those robots, just like there's people out there on Uber that want to drive you to your destination. So what we've done is with Exosphere is we're allowing data, and let me draw something a little different here for you. So we're allowing your request. So you have a robot and you have a request, which is a task. And that task your request gets put into as a task. It gets pushed into Exosphere. And then what happens is a decision happens. And its decision tree says, who wants to be able to do this? And it publishes this to AI companies, which are partner companies of Cynthium that are connected to Exosphere. And it also pushes it to humans, which we call HI. So on the HI network are people like you and people in the forum and people who are going to download the app eventually, just like it's an Uber style app or Skip the Dishes style app. What will happen is it'll prompt you and say, here's a task. Who has the most confidence they can complete this task? And based upon task rating, one of either the human or the AI will pick that up and control the robot to perform that task. And whoever completes that task gets rewarded, whether it's the AI or whether it's the human. So we're putting humans and we're putting humans and AI almost against each other, but at the same time working with each other so that they can start training. And as the robot is being controlled, all of the data from being controlled is being stored in a database. And that database can be queried by these AI companies following the task completion. And what they can do with that data is they can run simulations. And when they run simulations, they can reproduce this exact same scenario over and over and over again. Because in Exosphere, when they use the robot, they actually get, which is called a URDF, which is Universal Robot Definition File. So in order for your robot to be configured and work with Exosphere, this file specifies all of the values, the design values of what a robot looks like, and so that it can be simulated again. So what happens is the next time you go to ask a question for that robot to deliver a drink to Jeremy because you don't want to touch him, you want to stay in 6-foot radius, this AI system may have learned how to do that and navigate your home. It may have learned how to navigate and understand what it is that you're trying to do. And the more times you and everyone uses Exosphere and continues to train this database, the better two things are going to happen. The better the HI, the humans, are going to get at controlling robots, and the better AI will get at controlling robots. Because it really doesn't matter who's making the decision. and who's controlling the robot and how it's being done. It's a mechanical Turk. It really doesn't matter. The outcome is that the robot is performing some sort of task. Okay? And use case scenarios of this, for example, on delivery robots. Right? You have these delivery robots that everyone keeps hearing about from Amazon, etc. And these delivery robots are supposed to drive down the street, and they're supposed to have a little package in their back, and they're supposed to bring this little package to some guy who's standing there waiting for the package. But the thing is, in between him and the robot, there's trees here, and there's other people here, and there's all these obstacles in the way. There's a big box for some reason here with buttons on it. There's all these crazy things that are in the way between the robot and the person. And that's why we're not seeing these robots in real world environments. So what if this robot can get 90% to the destination, but then that other 10% it can't complete getting to? Well, with Exosphere, that robot can cry out and say, help, I'm stuck. And a human can come in, control that robot, and take it over for that last final 10%. And we call that the 10% edge case. And this is the trouble that robots are currently struggling with, is that there's this small percentage where we just can't get. And we keep writing more if conditions. If this, then do this. If this, do this. And we keep writing if conditions. And the problem is we're not changing how you program with Exosphere. We're not introducing some sort of new way of creating logic and code. What we're doing is something new as an ideology that is changing how we're actually working with robotics. And we're tapping into the power of the human brain versus trying to depend solely on just the computer. So you think of how Uber works, or how Skip the Dishes work, or any other type of service where we're engaging humans to be able to fill in that 10% edge gap. That's essentially what Exosphere is doing. So it's solving a huge problem in robotics. And this is something that we're super excited about, because while the rest of the world is trying to figure out in robotics how to achieve navigation and things like that, that 10% that's not working out for navigation can be solved by crying out and saying, hey, help me. So who qualifies to be able to control a robot? Well, that's why we came up with a few different things. And you're going to see over the next little bit, there's a couple scenarios. We have a rating system. And because our AI uses reinforcement learning, okay, we also use this rating system to fuel and feed the reinforcement portion of the machine learning database, as well as we use this rating system to be able to qualify humans. So what we've done is we're playing around with a couple different things we set up. We set up something called the training playground. And I think you saw that when you were on our website. Let's load that up here to show you. So on the website for Cynthium, under Products and Exosphere, you'll find the Exosphere and all the tasks that are currently loaded. Now these 3 tasks are always going to be there because these are training tasks. And these tasks are special because they're marked internally inside of our system that every time you complete one of these tasks successfully and actually do it within a timely manner, you will increase your human task rating, which allows companies, when they start using the Exosphere system in production environments, to be able to choose you as a qualified user to control their warehousing robots, or their towel delivery robots in a hotel, or their medical delivery robots in a hospital, or their Pizza Hut delivery robot on the street. It doesn't matter what the robot is, the different level of rating is going to qualify you to be able to control those robots. So these are 3 separate tasks, and if I were to load one of them up now, you'll see here that I'm controlling a robot that I'm supposed to park into the blue zone. So I have the ability to use this joystick, and this is all automated. So when you set up your own task using Exosphere, this is essentially the user interface that somebody's going to see. You can customize the interface by adding buttons, and you can use the mouse cursor, you can use the keyboard buttons, and super impressively, you can actually use a USB joystick if you plug it in as well. The web browser will detect your joystick, and you can use that to control the robot as well as pushing the buttons. You can see here that my overall results were pretty good. You can also see here we've been using Exosphere quite a bit. It was in a private demo before we did this. This is actually a community private beta, meaning that we're only releasing it to you community members because we want you guys to use it as much as you can. We want Will to be able to ask his robot to do something, and maybe Nomad is the guy who's going to do it. We're going to ask Jeremy to build a robot and have it ask it to do something, whether it's deliver something across the office because he has some concerns about his COVID in isolation, and he wants to get a drink from the fridge, and he wants someone else to go to do it for him and have a robot deliver it. It doesn't matter what the task is. It really doesn't matter, because the more information that we can use Exosphere for, the smarter we can get it. The more data we can build, the better it'll become. And then we'll become Cynthium as a knowledge base of all of the tasks that will power the robots of the future. And please don't mention Skynet, because that's not what we're trying to create here. So you can see that in my task I just completed, 31-second session has generated 463 machine vision samples for classification. What that means is our AI company partners can use the identified machine vision images that we've taken from the robot, and they can classify them and classify objects and classify various interesting points within the image for navigation as well. And then you can relate those classified samples to the navigation decisions. So why did I turn left? Why did I turn right? What were my different decisions based on? And they're based on different images that are of interest for the navigation. So these are very relevant statistics, which will continue to grow as Exosphere gets used more and more. So Exosphere has accumulated 30 minutes of data, machine learning data, since we launched this, and we only launched this today. So you guys have been using it quite a bit in the we launched it, I guess, less than an hour ago, right? So 40 minutes ago. So in 40 minutes, you guys have already used 30 minutes of machine learning data. So that's pretty good. In our staging environment, I think we had a couple hours worth of data, which we will most likely port over into the production system. But we're going to continue running it as it is right now and see how it goes. When you're completed your task, we left some information here for you, so you can get some sense of what it is and how it works and some examples for it. I think this is really important so that we're all super excited about these different edge cases that Exosphere can fill in for us and push robots. You can see here that there's a bunch of research we've done to understand why this matters. And the most interesting thing that I came across as an expert in this industry, which is kind of funny to say because I started this in my basement, but as an expert in this industry, I've talked to a lot of companies, some huge AI companies, some big names that you would know. And interestingly, the conversations resulted in to find out that 75% of their time was spent programming and building robots. And these are AI companies. These are companies that have departments solely responsible for building AI algorithms. Yet they're spending 75% of their time programming or building robots to test algorithms. That's not their core competency, right? AI and ML organizations are creating custom simulated environments without real-world scenarios. What that means is that all of the robots you guys build, right? There's 17,000 robots connected to our system in the last couple months, right? We almost have 1 million robot connections in the last year. That's crazy. And all of those robots that you guys are building are actually producing a ton of data, and they're doing something that a lot of robot companies aren't thinking of, and neither are the AI companies. They're not thinking of the things you want your robots to do. I remember there was some really bizarre stuff that people in our community have tried to do with robots. One of them was there was that one individual who wanted to make a robot that can track ghosts. You remember that, Jared? A ghost tracking robot, right? Because he thought that his house was haunted. There's other robots that were built for just security monitoring, or Josh Starnes making robots to mow his lawn. So while there's all these tons of different robots doing these different things, that's data that these companies want because they want to know what it is that people are building and doing robots. What do you want robots to do? How is a robot going to change your life? How is a robot going to help you get through this COVID crisis? How is a robot going to help you age and navigate a home or cook a meal? All right, these are questions that we have to think of because right now, in the age we're in, and the ability to make these decisions and embrace technology, we can start producing robots that can actually help us retire and help us age much better than anyone in the past has ever done, because we can have robots doing things for us. We're in charge of that, and we can make those decisions today. And that's what Exosphere is going to do, and that's what it is doing right now inside of our lab, inside of our testing. The idea of putting humans and AI working together, I think, is the only way we're going to be able to overcome this technological chasm that we're experiencing at this point. And that's what Exosphere is. So while I'm excited to show you guys this as a community, I'm really excited when we do our public launch, which I'm definitely trying to limit the amount of exposure this thing gets at this point, because we have a lot of people interested in using it. I have a question on the YouTube. Who are our AI partners? Our AI partners, I can't divulge at this stage. Right now, the AI companies that we're working with and continuing to work with are using the data to figure out how they can start taking on some of the tasks. It's going to be a really amazing day when one of you asks the robot to perform a task, and you're going to see an AI company perform that task instead of a human. That's going to be the day where I think our jaws are going to drop. That's going to be the day where we're going to sit back and suddenly realize how amazing of a world we truly live in, because suddenly you've just asked a computer to do something and it did it without a human involved. I mean, at that stage, the human was definitely involved for many moments prior to be able to train the AI system to be able to do it. But until then, so I hope you guys have some more questions. I know the chat's pretty quiet on this right now. So I think the next thing we can do too is we can demonstrate how to connect a few different robots to Exosphere, and then we can let you guys control a few of them since we're online. I mean, we have a lot of robots in the office that I guess I'm just thinking that we can connect any of them, really, right? So I don't know which ones we want to do. Maybe even just we can do a hexapod, we can do a 6, we can do a JD, a humanoid. We have the telepresence robot. We can play with one of those as well. All right. So how many hours are required to train the Roomba? Well, actually 0, right? It takes 0 hours to train the Roomba, because when you ask the Roomba to perform the task, a human will do it if the AI can't. So think of it again like Uber. It really doesn't matter if the robot knows how to do it or not. Do a JD robot. Sure, let's do a JD robot. Jeremy's going to grab one. I got one on the floor right behind me. Sweet. All right. So we got a JD robot. And of course, can we see the Roomba drive autonomous? At the beginning of the video, you did. You watched the robot navigate and drive, as you say, autonomous. So let's connect to this room, or this JD here. So I'll do this from my desktop. So Jeremy's going to unplug the Roomba so that I don't get confused on what robot I'm going to connect to. So as you can see, I'm using the latest beta version of ARC. Neuer, was it operated autonomously or by an operator, was a question. It really doesn't matter, does it? Right? Was your self-driving car an Uber driver human, or was it self-driving? It doesn't matter. It got you to where you needed to go. And that's the point to Exosphere, is it doesn't matter, because it's hidden behind the scenes. Whether it's an AI doing it or whether it's a human doing it. The fact is that you got the task that you needed completed. And if a human did it, then the data was saved and it helped the AI to be able to do it better the next time. So here I've loaded up a JD project. And connect to the JD we have here. I believe this is the one. And actually I got a lot of controls. Let's load up a JD project that's the bare one. This one's a better one to load up. There we go. Yes, you can register to be a remote driver. The question is, can we register to be a remote driver? Yeah, the main idea is that we want two things. We want all of you guys to drive robots and control them. And eventually you're going to actually get paid to do it. It's going to be just like Uber. You're going to be able to sign on and control a robot in a hotel and deliver towels to some room, or you're going to be able to drive a robot down an aisle inside of a retail outlet and count stuff on shelves. You're going to be able to do things that currently robots are struggling to do in the real world. You're going to be able to drive and deliver a pizza on the street, right? And that's why the rating system is so important, so that the better you get at driving and controlling these robots, the better opportunity you're going to have to be able to control robots in really cool environments. And you're going to be able to be in charge of some robots that are doing some pretty remarkable things. So we're limiting the type of robots that people can control and limiting the ability to just control any robot right off the bat. So we're going to connect to this robot, this JD that I have here. And I'm going to add a camera. And this JD robot does need some feet calibration. His feet are not the greatest. They look kind of off. So let's do that. Let's jump into our project and configure our feet. There, that looks good. Oops, I'll save this here. There we go, in case you need to load it back. And back to our desktop. There we go. Hi. Okay, so we know that this robot can walk and do all sorts of fun things. So right off the bat, we can just start using Exosphere. So we can just click, add it. And because this particular robot already has a movement panel, right? It's all it needs. The robot needs a movement panel and a camera. Once it has those two things, Exosphere will just start working. So once you add it, configure your robot title, and this stuff is going to be very important because it's going to help the machine learning database understand the difference between all these different styles of robots. So your robot title in this case is an Easy Robot JD, and my description for this robot is Easy Robot JD Humanoid with no changes. And now what we can do here is we can specify how fast it can move, etc. We'll set its default speed and everything to full speed because this robot doesn't really walk very quick. We have session passwords. We can lock it down. Certain companies and certain people are going to want to add passwords. You can specify the minimum rating that someone's going to be able to get. So if you want your robot to only be controlled by people who have a rating of, like, say, level 4, level 5, you'll be able to specify those that value. And you can also add some buttons in here. So we're going to add a button in here. We'll call this one Wave, because we'll make a task to have the robot do something pretty silly. We'll just have the robot wave. So we'll go auto position here, and we'll choose wave. There we go. I'm going to save this and save this. There. So now let's make a task. I think my task will be something like turn around and wave when you see me. So we can do that by also using speech. So I'm going to add the speech recognition control here, the Bing speech recognition control. This is a good one. What we'll do is I'll make this, when it recognizes a script, a command, send the data to Exosphere. So I'm going to put in here request a task, and my task description in this case is going to be under my global variables, the Bing speech. There it is there. So I'm sending to Exosphere the request task and I'm using the variable Bing speech. So whatever I've spoken to is going to be sent to Exosphere. So now if I put a task out there and I'll say, turn the robot around and wave when you see me. And you can see here it took the description, added it in, and now it's on Exosphere. So any of you guys right now can pick it up and start and make the robot do it. There you go. So the robot's turning around. And it executed the task. And it saw me. And now you can see back on my desktop here that the robot has asked me how well the task was. So it was completed very satisfactory. It was in a timely manner, and I think my description was good. And again, that's it, right? So I just taught the machine learning system how to do something, right? So now the more times we ask these questions to the robot, it'll start learning how to do those things on its own. So we can even do it again. And then this time, one of you guys on the forum, why don't you jump on the website and watch the task come through, and then you execute the task. So I only set it up to do that one thing because I only have a wave button, but who cares? Let's do it again. It's kind of fun. So I'm going to just rerun the exact same task again by pushing submit task. Actually, I'm going to speak again. I'll do it again. Turn the robot around and wave when you see me. So it's a little bit of a delay, I think, in the YouTube video.
Everyone's got stage fright. They don't want to do it.
Oh, they're too busy on the forum or on the chat. Give them time.
Now I have another question.
Yeah, I saw a few, and I'm going to wait.
Oh, here we go.
Come on, PTP, you can do it. Get better internet. You could disconnect it. We could try it again, PTP. Okay, we'll start up another task, but in the meantime, oh, I don't know what he's doing. All right, we got a few tasks here. We'll just rate these ones that are here. This is actually a very good example because it didn't complete. Everyone in the world is watching Netflix right now, so perhaps maybe there was some bandwidth issues. So was a task completed satisfactory? No. Timely manner? No. And was there confidence in my description? I think I asked a very good, simple question. So let's try this again. Let's, please don't rate me bad. Don't worry. So he needs this job. So Pedro, what's actually kind of interesting is because the service was disconnected from either a timeout or from an idle timeout or something, then it doesn't actually, my rating is also overridden by different values. So the actual session itself has been identified. So you actually don't get bad ratings. So let's try this again. I'm going to do it again. You guys ready? Turn the robot around and wave when you see me. Here we go. Hey, don't tease me about sending me rubber ducks. I could just tell Amina's over there watching everything, trying to figure out, oh no, how's this thing working?
Who's gonna be? Who's gonna do it?
All right, anyone other than Pedro has to do it. Oh, of course, Easy Yang. There he is. Okay. That's not. He waved first. All right, he didn't wave, so this is a really good example. Let's go back to our. There we go. So you can see here was a task completed satisfactory. It was kind of completed satisfactory. I wouldn't say very much. I would probably say 2 out of 5. I mean, he did turn around and find me. He didn't wave when he saw me. So, in a timely manner, I think it was very slow compared to what I was expecting. And the confidence in my description, again, I'm quite well. Maybe I could have asked him to do it quicker. So I'll give myself a 4 out of 5. Maybe I should have asked him more quicker. There you go. So let's look at a couple questions here. So we have a couple answer questions. One, do I need any certification, and what kind of requirements to be fitted for to be a remote operator? Yes, you do need some certification. You need to control the training robots that are in our system. So right off the bat, you'll see on our website, I had shown that earlier. There's a couple different robots that we have set up, and those are training robots. That's going to kick off your rating system. So that's going to get you right away a decent rating system by completing these. And then as you complete other people's tasks, then they'll be able to rate you as well. And then over time, your rating system will increase enough that you'll start picking up tasks that will appear here that are doing more interesting things than just driving around. So Will's question, Will Huff says, what kind of data sets are being collected for AI based on tasks? As examples, you have posted find the red zone. Is it how it gets there, or what is the color red, location, etc.? That's actually a really good question for the AI and ML groups. We're kind of the matchmaker middleman between the two. So essentially how AI works is it needs to know just as much bad data on how not to do something as it does need to know how to do something. So it needs both use cases to be able to understand what it is that it needs to do. So when you're using the robot in our training playground to drive a robot into the red zone or into the blue zone, there are colors involved, there's navigation involved, there's a few other things. Eventually we'll put in maybe some obstacles as well. But what's happening though is that the machine learning database is collecting all of the vision data and vision sample data of the colors, of the objects, of everything, so that over time the AI can actually be instructed to go to the red zone without needing to know what the red zone is. It doesn't need to be taught the color red. It doesn't need to be taught what red is. It has no idea. It's not like when you use a camera and you're using color tracking and you're choosing the color red. That's not how the AI systems work. They learn over time and try to predict what it is that you're learning or you're asking it to do, and that's based upon data sets that are stored inside of machine learning. So machine learning is like a subset of how AI works, right? So you think of machine learning as a bunch of classified like images or data that's been classified, saying that this is a picture of a house. This is doesn't not a picture of a house. This is a picture of a tree. This is not a picture of a tree. You create this huge classification, and then over time, how AI works is that it tries to figure out on its own now how to classify those things. So you can start feeding it more information, and it can start actually classifying it on its own. So what we're doing with Exosphere is we're producing machine learning data sets for AI companies. Another question, do you just do the task once? You could do the task once, and then if the task wasn't complete, Bruce, then I can ask the task to be done again. So you can ask the task to be executed as many times as you want. When you're comfortable by testing maybe your own robots out, making sure they can even do the task, then you can open it up and just keep allowing people to do it. We don't expect people to build playgrounds like what we have. We just want you to have a robot in your house that you've built, that you want to be able to have it do really remarkable things. So you should be able to ask it a question. AGB asks, how do you know how much time you have to be efficient? That's again up to the operator. Me as the person who asked the question, I choose whether or not I thought the robot was performing the task in a timely manner. Again, I think it's really important that we all know that there's no right or wrong. Again, with what we're doing here with AI, I mean, the wrong is if you're going to put a knife in a robot's hand and make it do something bad. But that's not the right or wrong we're referring to. We're referring to, did the robot complete the task or not? It's really up to you as a person. You can decide if the robot was too slow or too fast, or completed it or didn't complete it, because that amount of data is what matters. And you think of the same thing as just dealing with a child, or training a dog. You start getting really excited when the robots are able to complete the tasks partially, even if that's not fully. When can you start using your own robot? Bruce asks. Well, Bruce, guess what? You can use your robot right now. All you have to do is load Exosphere. It'll work right now. Neuer says, what if I crash the robot and something gets destroyed? Well, the good news is there's a terms of use, and the bad news is that the person who's responsible for it is going to be the robot owner. So the person who owns the robot, in this particular case, me, if you guys controlled my robot and I walked it off the shelf, I need to be there to supervise this thing. This needs to be, in this environment as it is right now, it needs to be inside of an observed environment. Like, you are going to need to be able to watch your robot when it's being controlled. As people start building up more rating and they start working and controlling robots in companies and warehouses or inside of businesses, by then you're going to have enough rating level where the insurance will have to cover that, because just like driving a car, if you're going to drive an Uber and you're going to get in a car accident with somebody in the back seat, it's the same thing. You're going to have some sort of, the companies are going to have some sort of insurance on their hardware, and they're not going to allow just anyone to drive it. And that's why a rating system is so important, because we know that people who are going to have robots and they're going to cost a lot of money in these warehousing environments or retail environments, those robots are going to need to be insured, and they're going to need to have be controlled by humans that have qualifications, right? So we want to make sure that people who are controlling those robots have enough time behind the Exosphere so that they are actually qualified to control them. So not just anybody will be able to control any robot. You're going to have some sort of level of qualifications. AGB is just having issues with sound. He's hitting the mute button. Stop muting me. Can we expect any income from future clients? Yes. Right now, we've released this to the community, to you guys, for free, because we want you to use it and we want to be able to test it and make sure that things work. We want to make sure that bandwidth is handled. As you saw in the configuration here, we have a lot of settings that these settings are eventually going to be standardized, like the video bit rate and frequency, audio frequency, things like that. They can be configured right now. Eventually, that's all going to be locked down. So the point to this beta in this demo for the community, for you guys to work with it, is that we want to be able to proof and test this thing out. And the plan is for us to start unveiling this and working with other companies that have robots that are going to start paying for this service, in which case we're going to funnel that revenue down to the operators. So just like if you pick up a skip the dishes or an Uber, you get paid to run that delivery. That's the exact same model that we're going to be going after with Exosphere. Except this is way cooler because you're going to be sitting on the couch watching Netflix and you're going to be controlling a robot in a Hilton delivering a towel to perhaps either a random stranger or somebody super famous. You never know. So it's going to be really wild because you're going to have a really cool story to tell somebody and be like, man, you never guess, instead of saying you never guess who got in my Uber yesterday, instead you're going to say you never guess who I delivered a towel to, right? So this is just think of that same model of being able to control a car and deliver somebody, or you're just driving a robot around a hotel room, or I guess a hotel, not the hotel room. Hopefully not. Okay, so can you control drones? Yes. Yes, Bruce, you can. Any type of robot that has a movement panel. So if I were to close down this particular movement panel, and I would go to add and look at the movement panels in ARC. So some of the drones that we do support, like the AR Parrot drone, but if you wanted to have your own drone, maybe it ran on an Arduino or it was an open source something, you can just use a custom movement panel and you can control it. So as long as this movement panel or something exists, and here's a demonstration of that, I'll just put a custom movement panel in here. And my custom movement panel, what can I have it do? I guess nothing because I don't have anything to control it. But what I can do is I can put a task back in here, submit this exact same task, and it's submitted. I'll just get Amin. Hey, Amin, can you pick that task up? So Amin is going to pick the task up for me. Unless one of you guys do real quick. See who can do it the fastest. Amin, yeah, he's quick on the finger. Okay, now if we look at this control here, see he's moving it around right now? You can see the buttons moving. So he's automatically controlling this robot. If it was a drone or if it was anything, it would just start moving this. In fact, I'm going to shut this movement panel down, and while the task is still running, let's add a different movement panel. Let's pretend that this actually is a drone. So let's add the drone movement panel here. And there it is. Now move your controls around. There we go. So you can see here that he's controlling the drone now. Okay. So it doesn't matter what type of robot it is. It'll work with anything. And I'm going to rate this as nils because this was just a test. So any type of movement panel will work. You have a lot. So Neuer says he's got a lot of cousins, big family in Costa Rica. This is a great idea for remote work. Yeah, it is. It's a really great idea for remote work because you can do a couple different things. One, you can just have the telepresence, remote telepresence, so you can drive the robot around and visit your family. You could help somebody who's in a different country, maybe an elderly person, or in a different anywhere really. And it doesn't have to be you, right? You can create the task and you can have someone else do it. One of the interesting things too is you can actually say your grandmother is inside of or your grandfather or whatever is inside of a home and you have a robot there for them. You can set it up with speech recognition. So all the grandfather has to do is say, robot, where's the remote control? I lost it again. Right? Or how do I turn the TV on? That question you always get a lot when you're dealing with old people. How do you turn the TV on? Or this remote's not working. Well, it can go to Exosphere and anybody can just be there to help them. right? They're through the technology. So it's so interesting that this time of COVID with this epidemic has happened during the launch of Exosphere, because we've been building this thing as a thought for a long time, for a number of years. I really wanted to get, this is a stage I really wanted to get to, and the fact that we're here now at this time, during this epidemic, I find that quite interesting. It's not a good type of interesting, but I mean it's really interesting that the product is in a stage where you can actually start using it, and it needs it. The world needs it at this stage too. Okay, so this was supposed to be about half an hour because I haven't had dinner yet. So here's what you guys can do now. Exosphere is there. You can install it. Use the latest Arc because it has a couple bug fixes as you've seen in the latest beta version, and you guys can just start using it. Are there details to run it? Who does my hair? Thank John. Nobody. That's why it's a mess. This is my COVID hair. This is my DJ hasn't been able to go get his haircut hair. So I thought about doing it myself one day. I got really close to. I grabbed the razor and I was like standing in front of the mirror, being like, and I said, you know what? Everyone else looks, except for like our prime minister, for some reason, who he's getting his haircut. Clearly, he's getting his haircut, but he's growing his beard out. And that's his like, oh yeah, I'm a scruffy guy. I'm living at home. It's like, yeah, but your hair's cut. So I don't know if you guys are getting your hair cut. Are you guys actually? Before I was gonna just jet, but I have a question for you guys. How are you guys coping with everything? I mean, is everybody? Bruce said we can get a robot to cut my hair. Okay, Exosphere robot to cut my hair. That would be that would be a hilarious use case. Actually, it could go very very bad, especially with PTP's internet connection, because it's gonna it's gonna freeze and lock up, and I'm gonna end up with like a racing stripe to the side of my head or something. And this video is going to be on YouTube forever. So there's me and my COVID hair is a big mess. I don't even know. I can't even fix it. There's nothing that can be fixed. It's just, it's just a big ball of mess right now. I want to see all your hair. You show me your pictures. But yeah, that's AGB. You're saying it's all good there. That's really good to hear. Bruce is saying he's slowly going insane. Pedro, it's the worst nightmare. Stuck at home with and no internet. Oh, that would be. If I didn't listen to the radio, I would not know there was a virus. Oh, wow. It sounds like you're always at home, AGB. You must just hermitize. Is hermitize a word? It's like hermit, but a verb. I don't mind this. I'm actually, it's funny because people always say that I'm a really good speaker when I'm out in public talking about something, especially if it's something I'm passionate about. But I'm actually a really introverted person. Like this talk and this conversation and talking to you guys, it's draining me emotionally. And then when I'm done this, I'm just gonna like go home and fall asleep because that's it. I use all my energy to talk to people. And it's funny because I don't understand extroverts. Extroverts recharge. They get more energy when they're actually around people. And it's like I'm the complete opposite. So I think that this COVID-19 epidemic is not so bad for me because it gives me an excuse to go home and watch Battlestar Galactica again for like the third time. Pedro says he's talking to spiders and seeing imaginary friends. I don't know if that's if that's good. Are you sure that you didn't find some, I don't know, some drugs someplace in your? Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, but yeah, I think I'm pretty excited about Exosphere. Like I started off by saying, I think that you guys should start playing with it, and I'm excited to see what you all create. I know that Will's building some secret robot, and people like Nomad, who are always on the forum, have so many different ideas of what they want the robot to do. And there's, it's so interesting. We did some customer studies recently about people who are using the software, and there's like I said, there's been almost 1 million robot connections like in the last year to our software, right? And the number of people on the forum is the same people over and over again. It's like Nomad and Easy Yang, and right. And there's so many people that use this, and they watch your posts, right, and they learn from it, and they're building remarkable things. There's PhDs using it. There's huge companies using it. It's pretty amazing to see who's using it and what they're doing with it. So I think that when Exosphere starts gaining some traction, and we start work out all the bugs and everything, who knows? Maybe AI doesn't need to be the next great big thing in the next couple of years. Maybe we can empower people to start doing the things that we thought robots were going to do. Maybe people can start getting jobs again, and maybe it's not actually going to hurt the economy as much as we thought. We always are worried that AI is going to take all the jobs, but maybe just a bunch of people sitting at home on their couch watching Netflix and controlling robots from their iPhone. Maybe that's all it takes, for the world to be able to be automated. So who knows where this is going to go? The other option is that it doesn't work out, and that humans aren't sitting on their couch aren't the greatest thing to automate the world, and AI takes over. In which case, again, we need that data, and that's why Exosphere is needed. So no matter how you look at it, whether we want the world to be automated in the future, or whether you want the robot or the world to be controlled by humans in the future, no matter which way you look at it, you need something like this. And I think that's the greatest part about the initiative that we've taken by releasing Exosphere. Can you use a Connect with it? I don't know. I mean, you can use the camera, I guess. I mean, or you can use it. I don't know if I understand how that would work, because the Connect is kind of like a sensor, right? It's an input sensor that can detect maybe some of the environment through some navigation with distances. So, and also a human skeleton. So I think the question more aligns of, can your robot use the Connect to perform as much of the task that you've given it, right? With the Connect, and then that little percentage where it can't get past that because the vision system just isn't sophisticated enough, in which case you can pass that off now to Exosphere. So that 10% we're talking about, that 10% edge case that we just can't quite get robots to do, that's what we can pass off to Exosphere. So before I leave, I guess this is the third before I leave thing I'm going to say, I guess. There's two ways you'll ever use Exosphere, ever. Okay? Those two ways are, one, here, watch this. We'll go like this. Just so you remember. Here's the two ways for Exosphere. 1 and 2. So number 1, why you'd ever use it. To control the robot 100% of the time to complete the task. The other reason you'll ever use it is to control the robot 10% of the time when it needs help. All right? So if you're a really good programmer and you know your stuff and you're able to, if you're a real good programmer, you know your stuff, and you're able to get most of the code complete, like someone like PTP is like, I know how to get this robot to do something. Well, he's probably going to fall in this range. He's going to say, my robot can do this much, but that 10% I can't quite just figure out how to navigate or how to do something. Or Richard Ryerson, who really loves the idea of having a robot just autonomously charge itself and drive around his house and bring him a beer or pour himself a glass of wine. We want that, right? And he could probably get there with 10%. He can do it. But that 10% still is failing for him. He still can't get past that one hurdle. Why can't the robot get me that beer and bring itself to me and then go charge itself? Well, that 10% can be controlled by humans, HI, right? And then for somebody who doesn't really know how to program, but has a really good idea, then that 100% applies. Because then a human being somewhere in the world can control the robot. And that question I was asked earlier is how much of the robot that's being controlled is autonomous versus through code. And again, right? It doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how the robot's being controlled, whether it's being done or not. Like, again, Uber is a self-driving car. Think about that, right? As soon as you get inside of your Uber, you use your phone, you select where you want to go, a car picks you up, you get inside it, and you get out at a destination. It doesn't matter that a person drove it. It doesn't matter that a person was there behind the wheel the whole time, because the fact is that you got the outcome you wanted. If your outcome was, I'm only going to go to the movie theater if a self-driving car drives me, then you set yourself up for a pretty big disappointment. But if you say, I just need to get to the movie theater and I don't care how I get there, then you want to get there in comfort, obviously, but you want to get there in a vehicle. Then a car can pick you up, and a human driving it makes it self-driving. Can we tell other robot builders about this? Yeah, I think you can. I definitely don't want this to get huge right now. That's why I'm only doing this in the community. We didn't share this link to anybody. There's some media that we've been talking to that is interested in doing an article about this. There's a couple actually, but we're avoiding this at this moment. I think two reasons. One, we really want to make sure that this works when we start giving the load that you guys are going to give it. We want you guys to use the crap out of this thing, man. Like, just use it. Put as many requests as you can through. Get people driving, controlling robots. That's important for us. Part two on this as well is we just really want to make sure that the UI and the tasks that you guys are going to be asking it make sense as well. Because one of the questions I think I'm going to have over the next little bit is, do we add a natural language processing between you and the request so that you can't ask it something that doesn't make a lot of sense? So that's one of the things that we're looking at introducing as well. And we also have a bunch of filtering on the vision system, for example, filtering nudity and alerting people about any type of footage like adult footage. So you can't just be in your room and turn this thing on and ask a really inappropriate request to a robot. So a ton of these things are being implemented, and we want to make sure that those are there for when this thing gets big. Can I deliver packages for Amazon using drones? I don't know if how many drone companies are going to want to use this. There's a ton of regulations around drones, as you guys saw. I think there's really a couple reasons why we don't see a lot of drones being used. Because the word drone inherently means that it's automated on its own. There's no human behind it. So whenever we call a drone, it's really, we're just calling it a quadcopter. So drone seems to be like a synonym for quadcopter. But the idea of the whole reason why we started calling them drones is because people were starting to put programs behind them. Have you ever seen the video of the robot that I made that is tracking the ball, right? That was autonomous. It was doing it on its own in my basement, and it got a lot of coverage because of that. But now people, the different flight agencies and different governments have really caught on to the dangers of a drone, because there's just not a lot of intelligence behind, as you know, right, behind robotics. It's just a bunch of if conditions, and you can't really say, if child is in front of me, don't hit it. Like, that is not really a thing you can do. With a ton of if conditions and a ton of math and a ton of AI over time, will eventually get there. But right now we're just not in that place. So drones are probably not going to be controlled by this anytime soon, and I don't think they're going to deliver packages either anytime soon. Especially because if a drone delivered me my $9.99 Nivea soap that I ordered, I'm probably going to steal the drone. Because I think it costs a lot more than the soap. So I think that I would probably prefer to keep the drone, and maybe a Faraday cage bag would be enough to be able to hide its signal, and voila, right? So there's also a lot of cost related to that. I think it's more expensive to steal a drone. You're not going to steal a human. I hope not. Don't do that if you're thinking about it. Steal a mailman. The other thing too is battery power, right? Drones don't fly for very long. If you guys have a DJI Phantom, or I have a drone, and I get 20 minutes out of it. I fly it around, and it starts beeping at me and comes back to its location. So drones aren't the greatest for this kind of stuff. However, if you're going to build a robot that can deliver a package on the ground with 4 wheels, right? Go ahead, do it. You can put a ton of batteries in there, and it'll last a super long time, because it doesn't take much to drive, unless you live in San Francisco and you have to drive up a lot of hills. So, yeah. Okay, I think we're good. We're gonna leave on a high note, because I'm hungry, and I also want to see what you guys are going to do with Exosphere. So I know that all you power users are going to probably dive into it pretty quick and start playing with it. Anybody who on the forum or anyone who's just reading, thinking you're not sure what you can do with it yet, just hang out on the website and watch tasks appear. And when a task shows up, control it, take over, see how it works. And we're going to be watching the data. We can't watch what you're doing because that's not, it's part of the privacy concern. We can't actually watch you controlling the robot, but we can look at the data after and say, hey, was this successful or not? And then we can start having conversations about what we think, how we lock down some of the requests and things like that. So enjoy your outside meals while you can. I don't know if you're eating outside. None of us are. We ordered pizza today, and that was pretty risky. Jeremy's still alive, so we're good. Give him 14 more days. We'll see what happens. Okay, everybody. Thanks a bunch. And I had a really good time chatting and really excited that we released this to you guys. And I hope you have a lot of fun with it. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.